The grand ballroom of the Westbrook Hotel buzzed with conversation and laughter. Soft golden light bounced off champagne glasses as Meridian Financial's annual gala reached its peak. Men in tailored suits and women in elegant dresses mingled, discussing quarterly reports and weekend plans with equal enthusiasm. In one corner, a magnificent grand piano sat untouched, its polished surface reflecting the chandeliers above. Alex Kim stood by the appetizer table, nursing a single glass of sparkling water. As a junior analyst who had joined the company just 18 months ago, he still felt like an outsider at these events. His dark blue suit, the only one he owned, had been carefully steamed for the occasion, and he'd spent the evening making polite conversation with colleagues who could influence his future at the firm. "Try the shrimp," said Raj, a fellow analyst who had started around the same time. "It's the only thing worth eating here." Alex smiled and shook his head. "I'm good. Just trying to survive the next hour without saying something stupid in front of someone important." "Too late for me," Raj laughed. "I just told the head of accounting about my disaster date last weekend. Pretty sure my promotion chances are now 0. Their laughter was cut short by a sharp tapping sound. The crowd hushed as Diane Winters, Meridian's CEO of 7 years, clinked a knife against her glass. She stood near the center of the room, commanding attention effortlessly in her crisp black pantsuit. At 56, Diane had a reputation that preceded her, brilliant but merciless, with a talent for spotting weakness and a habit of public displays of power. "Thank you all for another record-breaking year," she announced, her voice carrying across the ballroom without needing a microphone. "Meridian continues to outperform expectations because we hire exceptional people." She paused, scanning the crowd with sharp eyes. "Most of you, anyway." Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Everyone recognized Diane's particular brand of humor, always with an edge that left people wondering if they were the target. Alex shifted uncomfortably. 3 weeks ago, he'd spotted a serious flaw in Diane's pet project, a high-risk investment strategy that his analysis showed could cost the company millions. Following company protocol, he'd submitted his findings through proper channels. The proposal had been quietly modified, but Alex had received no acknowledgement, just cold stares whenever he crossed paths with Diane. "As we celebrate tonight," Diane continued, "I'm reminded that success requires both technical excellence and courage. The courage to take risks, to stand on stage when called upon." Her gaze swept the room before landing directly on Alex. "Speaking of performance," Alex's stomach dropped. Something in her tone made warning bells ring in his head. "I've been told we have a hidden talent among us," Diane said, stepping toward the grand piano and running her fingers along its edge. The slight flush in her cheek suggested she'd had more than a few glasses of champagne. "Our junior analyst, Alex Kim. I hear you were quite the pianist in another life." Every head turned toward Alex. His throat went dry. How did she know? He'd never mentioned his musical background to anyone at work. "That was a long time ago," Alex managed to say, his voice barely audible. "Don't be modest," Diane insisted, her smile not reaching her eyes. "Harvard undergraduate, then accepted to Juilliard for piano performance before dropping out to get your MBA instead. Fascinating career choice." The room fell completely silent now. Everyone recognized the dangerous glint in Diane's eye. The look she got before dismantling someone in a meeting or firing an executive who had disappointed her. "Why don't you play something for us?" she suggested, though it wasn't really a suggestion. Alex remained frozen by the appetizer table. The years he'd spent trying to forget his past life came rushing back. The endless practice hours, the pressure, his grandfather's hopes pinned on him, the paralyzing panic attack during his first major recital at Juilliard that had changed everything. "I don't really play anymore," he said quietly. Diane's smile widened. "Oh, come now. It's like riding a bicycle, isn't it? You never truly forget." She gestured grandly toward the piano. "I'll make you a deal, Alex. I'll make you CEO if you perform on this piano." Her mockery was clear, delivered with just enough humor that anyone objecting would seem to lack a sense of fun. Several board members chuckled uncomfortably. "What do you say?" she pressed, her voice honey-coated venom. "One piece and you can have my job. Fair trade, don't you think?" The CFO, Thomas, cleared his throat. "Diane, perhaps we should move on to the awards portion." "Nonsense," she cut him off without taking her eyes off Alex. "We have a Juilliard prodigy in our midst. I want to hear what made him special enough for the most prestigious music school in the country. Her voice dropped slightly. Unless, of course, those credentials are as overstated as some of his recent financial analyses. The reference to his report was unmistakable. This was punishment, public and deliberate. Everyone in the room understood it now. Raj whispered, "You don't have to do this, man." But Alex was already moving forward, as if pulled by an invisible string. 15 years since he'd performed for anyone. 15 years since he'd walked away from the life his family had sacrificed everything to give him. The crushing weight of his grandfather's disappointment when Alex had called from his dorm room, hand still shaking too badly to hold a pencil, to say he couldn't do it anymore. The crowd parted silently as he approached the piano. Diane stepped back, triumph already visible in her expression. She expected him to fumble, to embarrass himself, to confirm her point that he was out of his depth in every way that mattered. Alex sat on the bench, its familiar firmness both comforting and terrifying. He placed his hands on the keys but didn't press down, feeling the cool ivory beneath his fingertips. Memories flooded back. Hours of practice until his fingers bled, his grandfather's gentle corrections, the smell of his grandmother's cooking wafting under the door as he repeated the same passage 50, 60, 70 times. The silence in the room grew heavier. Someone coughed. A watch beeped. Alex closed his eyes, trying to slow his racing heart. In his mind, he wasn't in the Westbrook Hotel anymore. He was back in his family's small apartment, his grandfather sitting in the worn armchair beside the upright piano they'd saved for years to buy. Music isn't about being perfect, his grandfather had told him once. It's about being honest. When you play with honesty, people feel it here. He had pointed to his heart. Alex took a deep breath and began to play. The first notes of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 filled the room, soft, questioning, almost hesitant. Even those who knew nothing about classical music could feel the tension in those opening chords. Alex's fingers remembered what his mind had tried to forget. They moved across the keys with growing confidence, building the piece note by note. Behind him, someone gasped as the main theme emerged. The piece grew in complexity, demanding everything from the performer: technical precision, emotional depth, physical stamina. Alex's body swayed slightly as he played, lost in the music that had once been as natural to him as breathing. Across the room, Diane's smug expression faltered. This was not the fumbling performance she had expected. The junior analyst whose career she had planned to crush was transforming before everyone's eyes, revealing depths no one had suspected. Board members exchanged glances. Lisa Chen, head of the Tokyo office, actually closed her eyes to listen better. Thomas, the CFO who had tried to intervene earlier, stood transfixed, his drink forgotten in his hand. The piece built to its first climax. Alex's hands flying across the keys with impossible speed and accuracy. Years of muscle memory took over where conscious thought couldn't follow. He hit a wrong note but recovered instantly, the momentum of the music carrying him forward. As he reached the lyrical middle section, someone in the back of the room began recording on their phone. The hotel staff paused in their duties. A waiter stood with a tray of empty glasses, unwilling to make the noise necessary to clear them. The bartender leaned forward on the bar, mouth slightly open. In those minutes, everything changed. The power dynamic in the room shifted imperceptibly but undeniably. Diane had tried to use Alex's past to humiliate him, but instead had given him a platform to reveal his extraordinary gift. What had begun as cruel entertainment was becoming something else entirely, a moment of genuine beauty that no one present would forget. As Alex approached the final movement, his confidence grew. The tempo increased, his hands a blur of controlled passion across the keyboard. The final chords resonated through the ballroom, powerful and definitive. When the last note faded, Alex sat motionless, eyes still closed, breathing hard. For 3 heartbeats, the room remained absolutely silent. Then, as if a dam had broken, applause erupted, hesitant at first, then building to a thunderous roar. People who had barely noticed Alex's existence an hour earlier were on their feet. Raj was whistling through his fingers. Lisa Chen was dabbing at her eyes with a cocktail napkin. Alex finally opened his eyes and stood shakily. He turned to face the crowd, his expression a complex mixture of emotions, relief, pride, and something like peace. For the first time in 15 years, he had faced his past without being crushed by it. Only then did he look directly at Diane, who stood apart from the celebrating crowd. Her face had drained of color. The CEO's attempt at public humiliation had backfired spectacularly, and everyone in the room, including the board members who determined her future, had witnessed it. As their eyes met across the room, Alex gave her a small, almost imperceptible nod. It wasn't a challenge or even a triumph. It was simply acknowledgement of what she had tried to do, of what had happened instead, and of the fact that nothing between them would ever be the same again. The applause continued as Alex made his way back through the crowd, accepting handshakes and pats on the back with quiet dignity. Tomorrow would bring questions and consequences. Videos would circulate. Conversations would happen behind closed doors. But for tonight, in this moment, the junior analyst who had entered the ballroom hoping only to avoid attention had become the center of a story that was just beginning to unfold. The morning after the gala, Alex woke to his phone buzzing nonstop on his nightstand. Sunlight streamed through the blinds of his modest one-bedroom apartment as he squinted at the screen. Dozens of notifications lit up his phone: text messages, emails, social media alerts, missed calls from numbers he didn't recognize. Sitting up in bed, he opened a text from Raj. "You're trending. Call me ASAP." With a growing sense of unease, Alex tapped on a link Raj had sent. A video appeared, shot from the back of the ballroom, slightly shaky but with clear audio. There he was, sitting at the grand piano, playing Rachmaninoff as if his life depended on it. The video had over 200,000 views already. "Oh no," Alex whispered, running a hand through his sleep-tousled hair. The comments section was filled with reactions. "Who is this guy?" "He's amazing!" "Corporate takedown via Rachmaninoff. I'm here for it." That CEO's face when she realized she messed up. "Can someone explain the backstory here?" Alex closed the app and fell back against his pillows. What had been a personal moment, terrifying and ultimately liberating, had now been thrown into the public sphere. He hadn't asked for this kind of attention. In fact, he'd spent years specifically avoiding it. His phone rang. It was Raj. "Dude, have you seen what's happening? You're famous." "I've seen," Alex said, his voice tight. "Who posted that video?" "No idea, but it doesn't matter now." "It's everywhere. The company's PR team has been sending urgent emails all morning." Raj paused. "Speaking of which, check your work email." Alex switched to his email app and found a message from Thomas. The CFO sent at 6:32 a.m. "Meeting in my office. 9 a.m. mandatory." It was already 8:15. Alex jumped out of bed. "I have to go," he told Raj. "Meeting with Thomas in 45 minutes. "Good luck," Raj replied. "Call me after." "Oh, and Alex? What you did last night was incredible. Whatever happens next, remember that." Alex showered in record time, his mind racing. Would he be fired? The company had strict social media policies. Though he hadn't posted the video himself, he had created the situation by agreeing to play, or perhaps this was about Diane. He had humiliated the CEO, however unintentionally. Companies had let people go for less. As he knotted his tie with trembling fingers, Alex caught his reflection in the mirror. Something had changed in his face since yesterday. The constant worried furrow between his brows had smoothed slightly. Despite the chaos unfolding, he felt strangely calm at his core. For 15 years, he had run from his music, from the expectations, from the crushing anxiety of performance. Last night, he had faced it all and survived. Whatever came next couldn't be worse than what he'd already overcome. The Meridian Financial Building looked the same as always. 40 stories of glass and steel rising above the city streets. But as Alex walked through the revolving doors, he immediately sensed a difference. The security guard, who usually barely glanced at employee badges, did a double-take as Alex passed. "Morning." "Mr. Kim," he said with a new note of respect. In the elevator, two women from the legal department whispered behind their coffee cups, falling silent when Alex stepped in. One of them gave him a small smile. "That was quite a performance last night," she said. "Thank you," Alex replied quietly, watching the floor numbers climb. When the doors opened at the executive floor, a place Alex had visited only twice before, he stepped out into an atmosphere of tightly controlled chaos. Assistants hurried between offices. A group of people he recognized from the marketing department huddled near the conference room, speaking in hushed tones. Thomas's assistant looked up as Alex approached her desk. "They're waiting for you," she said, nodding toward the closed office door behind her. "They?" Alex's momentary calm evaporated. He knocked once and entered Thomas's corner office. The room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, but Alex barely registered the view. Seated around the glass conference table were Thomas, the head of HR, the chief marketing officer, and Lisa Chen, who had flown in from Tokyo for the gala. Notably absent was Diane. "Alex, please sit down," Thomas said, gesturing to an empty chair. Alex sat, folding his hands in his lap to hide their slight tremor. "I assume this is about last night." "In part," Thomas replied, his expression unreadable, "but also about this morning." He turned his tablet around to show Alex not just the viral video from the gala, but news headlines. Meridian CEO's mockery backfires as hidden musical genius is revealed. Wall Street meets Carnegie Hall. Finance analysts' stunning piano performance, corporate bullying. Exposed. CEO challenges employee gets schooled in classical music. Alex felt the blood drain from his face. "I didn't ask for any of this attention," he said quickly. "I didn't post the video or speak to any reporters." Lisa raised a hand to stop him. "No one is accusing you of that, Alex. We're well aware of who you are and how you conduct yourself. That's part of why we're here." "I don't understand," Alex said. Thomas cleared his throat. "The situation is complicated. The video has created a public relations challenge for the company." He glanced at the others. "Diane's behavior appears to outside observers to be unprofessional at best and bullying at worst." "Which it was," Lisa added quietly. The head of HR shifted uncomfortably. "The board is meeting this afternoon to discuss the incident. Several major clients have called this morning expressing concern about the leadership culture at Meridian." "I never meant for any of this to happen," Alex said, feeling a weight settling on his shoulders. "I just wanted to get through the evening without making a scene." "Ironically," said the chief marketing officer, speaking for the first time, "by not making a scene when provoked, you created a much bigger one." He wasn't smiling, but there was a glint of appreciation in his eyes. Thomas leaned forward. "Here's where we stand, Alex. The company is facing a potential PR crisis. But there's also an opportunity here." He tapped his tablet. "People love an underdog story. They love hidden talent and authenticity. What happened last night has resonated with hundreds of thousands of people already, because it feels real in a way that planned corporate messaging never could." Lisa nodded. "The question is, where do we go from here? And that depends partly on you." Alex looked between them, bewildered. "On me? I'm just a junior analyst." "You were just a junior analyst yesterday," the marketing chief corrected him. "Today, you're the face of Meridian that the world is seeing. Whether we like it or not, you've become the story." The room fell silent for a moment. Outside the windows, clouds drifted across the blue sky. Far below, people moved along the sidewalks, unaware of the drama unfolding 40 floors above them. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" Alex finally said. Thomas exchanged glances with the others before answering. "We would like your permission to address this situation proactively, to craft a narrative that acknowledges what happened, but moves the story forward in a positive way, one that benefits both you and the company." "And Diane?" Alex asked, the CEO's name hanging in the air like a challenge. Lisa's expression hardened slightly. "Diane made choices last night that have consequences. The board will address those separately." The head of HR slid a document across the table. "We've prepared a statement we'd like to release with your approval. It acknowledges your remarkable talent and history with music, frames last night as a moment of inspiration rather than confrontation, and announces that Meridian will be launching a new initiative to support arts education in underserved communities." Alex skimmed the document, his heart beating faster. "This makes it sound like the whole thing was planned." "Not planned," the marketing chief corrected. "Serendipitous. A moment of unexpected magic that reminded everyone of the diverse talents that make up our organization." Alex set the paper down. "And what about the truth? That your CEO tried to publicly humiliate an employee for pointing out flaws in her investment strategy?" The tension in the room thickened. Thomas cleared his throat again. "Alex, I want to be straight with you. Diane was wrong. What she did was unprofessional and petty. But she's been the driving force behind Meridian's growth for 7 years. The board is unlikely to remove her over one incident, however public. So you want me to help sweep it under the rug? Alex said flatly. We want to offer you a different path forward, Lisa cut in, her voice firm but not unkind. One where you're not forever defined as the employee who brought down a CEO or caused a company crisis. She leaned toward him, her eyes intent. You have extraordinary talent, Alex, not just in music but in finance as well. Your analysis of the investment strategy was spot on. You saved the company millions by catching those flaws. That hasn't gone unnoticed despite Diane's reaction. Alex blinked in surprise. He hadn't known that others were aware of his role in modifying the strategy. Thomas nodded. We're offering you a promotion. Senior analyst with a significant raise and the opportunity to work directly with the investment committee. Your insights are valuable to us, Alex. Last night didn't change that. It just brought it into sharper focus. The marketing chief smiled slightly. And yes, we'd like to occasionally showcase your musical talent at appropriate company events. If you're willing. Alex sat back in his chair, mind whirling. This wasn't at all what he had expected when he'd been summoned this morning. Not termination or reprimand, but opportunity. Yet something felt off about it all. Too neat, too convenient. I need time to think, he said finally. Of course, Thomas replied, but we'll need an answer by end of day. The board meets at 4 and this needs to be resolved quickly. Lisa stood, signaling the end of the meeting. For what it's worth, Alex, I think you should accept. Not because it benefits the company, but because you deserve recognition for your abilities, all of them. As Alex rose to leave, Thomas added, one more thing. Diane has requested to meet with you privately before the board convenes. Alex froze with his hand on the doorknob. Why? She didn't say, Thomas answered carefully. But I suggest you hear her out. Walking back to the elevator, Alex felt as if he were moving through a dream. 24 hours ago, he had been an unremarkable junior analyst trying to blend into the background. Now he was at the center of a corporate drama, being offered promotions and meeting with board members. As the elevator descended to his floor, he wondered what his grandfather would make of all this. The old man had sacrificed everything to nurture Alex's musical gift, working 2 jobs to pay for lessons, selling prized possessions to buy that upright piano. When Alex had abandoned music after his breakdown at Juilliard, the disappointment in his grandfather's eyes had been unbearable. Music will find you again when you're ready, his grandfather had said just before he passed away 3 years ago. Some gifts can't stay buried forever. The elevator doors opened. Alex stepped out, decision forming in his mind. He would meet with Diane. He would hear what she had to say, and then, with his grandfather's words echoing in his heart, he would choose his own path forward, one that honored both parts of himself that had been at war for too long. Alex stood outside Diane's office, his hand hesitating before knocking. Through the frosted glass door, he could see her silhouette, the straight-backed posture that had intimidated employees for years. He checked his watch. 2:30 p.m. 90 minutes before the board meeting that would decide both their fates. Taking a deep breath, he knocked. Come in, Diane called, her voice betraying none of the emotion she must be feeling. Alex entered the spacious corner office, even larger and more impressive than Thomas's. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city skyline, but Diane wasn't looking at the view. She sat behind her massive desk, papers arranged in perfect alignment before her, as if the chaos of the past 24 hours could be contained through orderliness. Alex, she said, gesturing to a chair across from her desk, please sit. He sat, noticing subtle differences in her appearance since last night. The impeccably styled CEO looked slightly disheveled, her hair not quite perfect, shadows visible beneath her eyes despite careful makeup. The invincible Diane Winters suddenly seemed human. I imagine you've had an interesting morning, she said, her tone carefully neutral. You could say that, Alex replied, equally careful. A heavy silence filled the room. Alex had expected anger, perhaps even threats. The calm was unnerving. I've been CEO of Meridian for 7 years, Diane finally said, looking past him toward the windows. Before that, I spent 15 years climbing the ladder in an industry that wasn't particularly welcoming to women. I faced discrimination, harassment, and constant doubt. Her eyes returned to his. I've had to be twice as tough, twice as smart, and twice as ruthless as my male counterparts just to get the same respect. Alex said nothing, unsure where she was going with this. Last night I broke one of my own rules. I let something personal affect my professional judgment. She folded her hands on the desk. Your analysis of the Thompson strategy was correct. The flaws you identified would have cost us millions. When the strategy was quietly modified based on your input, I was resentful. This admission surprised Alex. He had expected justification, not acknowledgement. Why tell me this now? He asked. Diane's lips thinned. Because in 2 hours I'll be fighting for my career before the board. They've received calls from major clients, shareholders, even the press. The video of last night has created a perception problem that threatens everything I've built. She leaned forward slightly. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand my position before you decide what to do next. Alex felt a flicker of unease. What exactly are you asking of me? Thomas told me about the offer they made you. Senior analyst raise, committee access. It's a good offer. Diane's gaze was penetrating. I'm prepared to make you a better one. I'm listening, Alex said cautiously. Director of Strategic Analysis. Your own team. Triple your current salary. Direct reporting line to me. She paused. All I ask is that you help smooth over this situation with a joint statement explaining that last night was a misunderstanding. That my challenge was meant in good fun, as a way to showcase the diverse talents within our organization. Alex blinked, momentarily stunned by the offer. Director level was typically reserved for people with at least 10 years of experience. It would be an unheard of leap from junior analyst. You're trying to buy my silence, he said slowly, realization dawning. Diane didn't flinch. I'm offering you an opportunity commensurate with your obvious talents while also protecting the company from unnecessary disruption. Unnecessary disruption, Alex repeated. Is that what we're calling public humiliation now? A flash of irritation crossed Diane's face. We both know what happened last night. The question is whether we need to air that publicly, potentially damaging Meridian's reputation and stock price, or whether we can find a more constructive path forward. Alex stood up, needing to move, to think. He walked to the windows and looked out at the city below. Thousands of people going about their days unaware of the drama playing out in this glass tower. Do you know why I stopped playing? He asked, his back to Diane. Your file mentioned a withdrawal from Juilliard. I assumed burnout or injury. Alex turned back to face her. It was a panic attack. My first major recital. I'd been preparing for months, my whole life really. My grandfather had sold his prized watch to help pay for my education. The pressure was enormous. He could see the memory as clearly as if it were yesterday. The spotlights. The sea of expectant faces, the suffocating weight of expectation. I sat down at the piano, and my hands started shaking. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. In front of hundreds of people, I froze. I had to be helped off stage. The shame of that moment still stung. I never performed in public again, until last night. Diane studied him, her expression softening almost imperceptibly. Yet last night, under equal pressure, you played beautifully. Because I had nothing left to lose, Alex said simply. You'd already humiliated me. Playing couldn't make it worse. He paused. It was actually freeing. A heavy silence settled between them. Outside, clouds cast moving shadows across the neighboring buildings. I was like you once, Diane said suddenly. Young, talented, idealistic. I believed success would come through merit alone. Her laugh was short, bitter. I learned otherwise. This business isn't about talent or even hard work. It's about power. Who has it, who doesn't, and what you're willing to do to get it. She stood and walked around her desk, closing the distance between them. The board doesn't care about right or wrong, Alex. They care about perception and profit. If you force this issue, they'll protect the company, not you. Trust me on that. Is that a threat? Alex asked quietly. It's reality, Diane replied. I'm offering you a chance to skip 10 years of office politics and backstabbing. Director level at 28. Real influence. The ability to implement your ideas without fighting through layers of bureaucracy. She paused, all while avoiding becoming known forever as the whistleblower who caused a corporate meltdown. The temptation was stronger than Alex wanted to admit. The position she offered would normally be impossible to achieve for years. The money alone would change his life. He could finally pay off his student loans, maybe even buy a piano again. Yet something felt wrong. His grandfather's voice seemed to whisper in his ear. The right path isn't always the easiest one. I need to think, he said finally. Diane nodded, returning to her desk. You have until the board meeting at 4. After that, events will take their own course, she checked her watch. That gives you about an hour. Alex turned to leave, then stopped at the door. Last night when I was playing, what were you thinking? Diane looked up, surprise flickering across her face. For a moment, her carefully maintained facade cracked. I was thinking that I'd made a terrible mistake, she admitted, and that I was witnessing something extraordinary. Their eyes held for a long moment. Then Alex nodded and left the office. The company cafeteria was nearly empty in the mid-afternoon lull. Alex sat alone at a corner table, a cup of untouched coffee cooling before him. His phone buzzed with another message from Raj, the 5th in the past hour, but he ignored it. He needed to think clearly, without outside influence. 2 paths lay before him, both with significant consequences. Accept Diane's offer and bury what happened, securing a dream position but compromising his integrity. Or refuse, tell the truth to the board, and potentially damage both Diane's career and the company itself. Neither option felt right. As he stared into his coffee, he noticed a janitor carefully mopping the floor nearby. The older man worked methodically, taking pride in a job many would consider menial. Something about his quiet dignity struck Alex. The man caught Alex watching him and smiled. Tough day, young man? You could say that, Alex replied. Trying to make a difficult decision, the janitor nodded wisely. My mother always said when you're stuck between 2 bad choices, look for the third option. His eyes crinkled with kindness. There's almost always a third option if you look hard enough. The simple wisdom hit Alex with unexpected force. He'd been so focused on the 2 paths presented to him that he hadn't considered creating his own. Thank you, he said to the janitor, who nodded and continued his work. Alex pulled out his phone and typed a quick message to Raj. Need your help. Meet me in the lobby in 15 minutes with your laptop. Then he opened his email and sent requests to 3 people, Thomas, Lisa Chen, and the head of marketing. The subject line read simply, Third option, meeting before the board. His heart pounded as he pressed send. What he was about to propose was risky, unconventional, and might end his career at Meridian. But for the first time since the chaos began, it felt right. 30 minutes later, they gathered in a small conference room, Alex, Raj, Thomas, Lisa, and the marketing chief, Miguel. Diane was conspicuously absent. This better be important, Thomas said, checking his watch. The board meeting starts in 45 minutes and we still don't have a resolution. I think I have one, Alex said, standing at the head of the table. But it's not what either you or Diane proposed. He nodded to Raj, who opened his laptop and connected it to the room's display. On the screen appeared a mock-up of a web page with the Meridian logo. What is this? Lisa asked, leaning forward with interest. A third option, Alex replied. Instead of hiding what happened or using it to assign blame, we transform it into something positive, something genuine. For the next 20 minutes, he outlined his proposal, a bold, unconventional approach that acknowledged the events of the gala while channeling the attention into a new initiative. As he spoke, the skepticism on the executives' faces gradually shifted to consideration, then to cautious interest. When he finished, the room was silent for a long moment. This is unexpected, Thomas finally said. It's brilliant, Lisa countered, a slow smile spreading across her face. Risky but brilliant. Miguel, the marketing chief, was already typing notes on his tablet. The press would eat this up. It completely changes the narrative. What about Diane? Thomas asked, the critical question hanging in the air. Alex met his gaze steadily. That's her decision to make. But this path offers her a way forward too, one with dignity intact. Thomas checked his watch again. We have 30 minutes to present this to the board. If we're doing this, we need to move now. Alex took a deep breath. There's one more thing I need first. What's that? Lisa asked. A piano, Alex said, surprising himself with the steadiness in his voice. I need a piano in the boardroom. Finding a piano for the boardroom proved easier than Alex had expected. The marketing team located an electronic keyboard in the company's event storage room. Not ideal, but it would serve the purpose. As technicians hurriedly set it up, board members filed into the room, their expressions ranging from curiosity to irritation at the unusual addition to their meeting space. Alex waited in a small anteroom, heart pounding. Through the partially open door, he could see the 12 board members taking their seats around the polished table. Thomas stood at the head of the room, ready to begin the proceedings. Lisa Chen caught Alex's eye and gave him a subtle nod of encouragement. The door opened fully and Diane walked in. She paused briefly upon seeing the keyboard, her shoulders tensing almost imperceptibly before she composed herself and took her seat at the table. If the board members noticed the subtle exchange of glances between her and Thomas, they gave no indication. "Ladies and gentlemen," Thomas began, "thank you for convening on short notice. As you're aware, we're facing an unusual situation following last night's company gala. Before we discuss the details, I'd like to introduce someone who has a relevant perspective to share." He gestured toward the door, and Alex stepped into the boardroom. Murmurs rippled around the table. Most of these people had been at the gala, had witnessed his performance, but seeing him in the boardroom, the domain of executives and directors, was unexpected. "This is Alex Kim, the analyst at the center of last night's incident," Thomas said. "He has a proposal that I believe warrants your attention." Alex moved to the front of the room, feeling 12 pairs of eyes tracking his every move. His throat felt dry. This was a different kind of performance than playing the piano, in some ways more terrifying. "Thank you for seeing me," he began. "I know your time is valuable, so I'll be direct. The video from last night has created a situation that could damage Meridian's reputation if handled poorly. But I believe it also presents an opportunity." He glanced at Diane, who sat perfectly still, her expression carefully neutral. "Rather than deny what happened or assign blame, I propose we embrace the moment of authenticity that resonated with so many people, not as a corporate crisis but as a catalyst for positive change." Alex nodded to Raj, who was operating the room's display system. The screen lit up with the mock-up they had prepared, a webpage titled Meridian Harmony Initiative. This is a proposal for a new program that combines Meridian's financial expertise with support for arts, education in underserved communities. It would include funding for music programs in schools that have lost arts funding, scholarships for talented students who can't afford instruments or lessons, and a mentorship program pairing finance professionals who have artistic backgrounds with young people interested in both fields. The board chair, a stern-looking woman in her 60s, frowned. "While this sounds admirable, Mr. Kim, how does it address the immediate PR situation?" Alex took a deep breath. "By transforming it. Instead of a story about corporate bullying or personality clashes, we create a narrative about unexpected inspiration and positive action. We acknowledge what happened, that a moment of challenge led to an unexpected musical performance, and we channel the attention it generated into something meaningful." He moved to the keyboard. "With your permission, I'd like to demonstrate how we would present this to the public." After a moment of hesitation, the chair nodded. Alex sat at the keyboard. Despite its limitations compared to a real piano, the familiar position centered him. He played a few chords, adjusting to the touch and sound of the electronic instrument. "Imagine this as a video announcement," he said, continuing to play softly as background music to his words. "It begins with me introducing myself, acknowledging the viral moment and explaining how it reminded me of something important, that people are more than their job titles, that sometimes our greatest strengths come from unexpected places." His fingers moved more confidently now, the music swelling slightly. "Then I would explain how this realization inspired Meridian to launch the Harmony Initiative, creating opportunities for young people to develop both financial literacy and artistic expression without having to choose between them." He looked directly at Diane as he continued playing. "And I would be joined by our CEO, who would share her vision for how this initiative aligns with Meridian's commitment to developing well-rounded professionals and supporting the communities we serve." Diane's eyebrows rose slightly, the only indication of her surprise. The video would end with an invitation for other companies to join us, creating an industry-wide movement that recognizes the value of diverse talents and perspectives. Alex finished the piece with a gentle cadence and lifted his hands from the keys. "This isn't about covering up what happened. It's about transforming it into something better." The room fell silent. Board members exchanged glances, some thoughtful, others skeptical. It's an interesting approach, the board chair finally said, but it hinges on cooperation between you and Ms. Winters. Given the tension evident in last night's video, is that realistic? All eyes turned to Diane. For a long moment she said nothing, her gaze fixed on Alex with an intensity that made others in the room shift uncomfortably. "May I have a moment to speak with Mr. Kim privately?" she asked, her voice perfectly controlled. The chair hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. Diane stood and walked out of the boardroom without looking back. Alex followed her into a small conference room across the hall. As soon as the door closed behind them, she turned to face him. "That was quite a performance," she said, her tone unreadable, almost as impressive as last night's. "It wasn't a performance," Alex replied. "It's a genuine proposal. One that conveniently cast you as the hero and requires me to play the reformed villain." "That's not how I see it," Alex said. "This gives both of us a way forward without either of us being villainized. It acknowledges what happened without dwelling on it, and creates something positive from it." Diane paced the small room, heels clicking sharply on the hardwood floor. "You turned down my offer. A director-level position, triple your salary. Why?" "Because it came with conditions I couldn't accept," Alex said simply. "This path doesn't. It's about creating something honest and meaningful, not buying silence or assigning blame." She stopped pacing and studied him, as if seeing him clearly for the first time. "You really believe that, don't you? That business can be both profitable and principled." "I have to," Alex replied. "Otherwise, what's the point of any of this?" Diane laughed softly, but there was no mockery in it now. "I was like that once. Before 20 years of watching good ideas get crushed by politics and profit margins. Maybe it's time to remember that feeling," Alex suggested quietly. She moved to the window, looking out at the city below. "The board will accept your proposal. It's a clever solution to their PR problem, and it makes the company look progressive without costing much. But they'll be watching us both. One misstep and they'll discard it, and us without hesitation. I know the risks," Alex said. "Do you?" Diane turned back to him. "Your career at Meridian will be defined by this. No matter what else you accomplish, you'll always be the piano guy. Some will resent your rapid rise. Others will question whether you earned it. I'll deal with that when it comes," Alex said with more confidence than he felt. Diane looked at him for a long moment. 3 months ago, I identified you as a potential fast-tracker. Your analysis work was exceptional. I had plans to move you up gradually, test your abilities with increasingly complex assignments." She shook her head. "Now here we are with you effectively dictating terms to the board and me." "Not dictating," Alex corrected gently. "Offering an alternative that benefits everyone, including you." "Including me," Diane repeated thoughtfully. "That's the part I'm still trying to understand. Why include me at all? You could have thrown me under the bus. Many would say I deserved it." "Because division doesn't solve anything," Alex said. "And because I think you're still the best person to lead Meridian, despite what happened last night." Surprise flickered across her face before she could mask it. "That's unexpected. People make mistakes," Alex said. "I know that better than most. What matters is what you do afterward." Their eyes met in a moment of unexpected understanding. Then Diane straightened her shoulders and nodded once, decision made. "All right, Mr. Kim. Let's go sell your harmony to the board." They returned to the boardroom, where conversation ceased immediately upon their entrance. All eyes watched as Diane took her place at the table and Alex stood beside her. "After discussion with Mr. Kim," Diane said, her voice steady and authoritative, "I believe his proposal offers the best path forward. The Harmony Initiative aligns with Meridian's values while addressing the current situation effectively." She turned to Alex. "Mr. Kim has demonstrated exceptional insight, not just in financial analysis but in understanding the human element of business. With the board's approval, I would like him to lead this initiative, reporting directly to me as Senior Strategy Advisor." Murmurs broke out around the table. Senior Strategy Advisor was a newly created title, one that would put Alex on the executive track while maintaining appropriate hierarchy. The board chair studied them both. "This is quite a turnaround from last night." "Last night was a mistake on my part," Diane said, the admission clearly costing her. "One I don't intend to repeat. But it has unexpectedly revealed an opportunity I believe Meridian should seize." She glanced at Alex. Sometimes our greatest insights come from our most challenging moments. The chair looked around the table. Does anyone object to proceeding with this proposal? When no one spoke, she nodded decisively. Then we move forward. Ms. Winters, Mr. Kim, I expect a detailed implementation plan on my desk by Monday morning. This initiative will receive a 3-month trial, with metrics for success clearly defined. If it fails to deliver the expected results, we will reassess. Understood, Diane said crisply. Thank you, Alex added, relief washing through him. As the meeting adjourned, board members filed out, several stopping to speak briefly with Alex or shake his hand. Lisa Chen gave him a subtle thumbs up as she passed. Thomas nodded approvingly. When the room had cleared except for Alex and Diane, she turned to him. Congratulations, Senior Strategy Advisor Kim. Your first executive crisis navigated successfully. Our first crisis, Alex corrected. A ghost of a smile touched Diane's lips. Indeed, though I suspect it won't be the last. She gathered her papers. We have work to do. My office tomorrow morning, 8 sharp. This initiative won't build itself. I'll be there, Alex promised. As Diane walked to the door, she paused. That piece you played last night. Rachmaninoff. Yes, Piano Concerto No. 2. My father used to play it, she said, surprising him. Not as well as you, but he loved it. Said it was about resilience, finding beauty after darkness. She seemed about to say more, then simply nodded. 8 o'clock. Don't be late. After she left, Alex remained in the empty boardroom, the events of the past 24 hours swirling in his mind. From junior analyst to viral sensation to senior strategy advisor in the span of a day, it was surreal. His phone buzzed with a text from Raj. Board meeting over? What happened? Before answering, Alex walked to the keyboard still set up at the front of the room. He played a few notes, feeling the weight of the past and the promise of the future in each one. Then he typed back. Third option worked. I'll tell you everything over dinner, and Raj, thank you for believing in me. Outside the windows, the afternoon sun broke through clouds, bathing the city in golden light. Somewhere in that light, Alex could almost feel his grandfather smiling. 6 months later, Alex stood backstage at the city's premier concert hall, adjusting his tie nervously. Through a gap in the curtains, he could see the venue filling with people. Not just Meridian employees, but students, teachers, local officials, and arts advocates. The inaugural Harmony Initiative benefit concert was about to begin. Nervous, Raj appeared beside him, looking uncharacteristically formal in a dark suit. Terrified, Alex admitted. Remind me why I agreed to perform again? Because you're the face of the initiative, Raj said. And because you secretly missed it. Alex couldn't argue with that. The past 6 months had transformed his life in ways he could never have predicted. The viral video of his piano performance had surpassed 5 million views. The launch of the Harmony Initiative had generated nationwide press coverage. And his new role as senior strategy advisor had pushed him to grow professionally beyond his expectations. He peered through the curtains again, spotting familiar faces in the audience. Thomas sat near the front with his family. Lisa Chen had flown in from Tokyo specifically for the event. The board chair was there too, looking surprisingly relaxed outside the boardroom setting. Is she here yet? Alex asked, scanning the crowd. Raj checked his phone. Her assistant texted. They're running about 10 minutes late, but on their way. Alex nodded, trying to calm his nerves. His relationship with Diane had evolved in unexpected ways over the past months. What had begun as antagonism had gradually transformed into something more complex. A wary mutual respect that sometimes bordered on mentorship. They still disagreed often, sometimes heatedly, but there was a fundamental change in how they engaged with each other. 5 minutes to Places called the stage manager, a volunteer from the local university's theater department. Alex took a deep breath and retreated to a quiet corner backstage. From his pocket, he withdrew a worn photograph. His grandfather seated at their old upright piano, smiling proudly as a 12-year-old Alex played beside him. He touched the image gently. I think you would have liked this, Grandpa, he whispered. A commotion at the stage door drew his attention. Diane strode in, wearing an elegant black dress instead of her usual corporate suits. She looked different somehow, still commanding but with a softer edge. Behind her came a group of teenagers looking around wide-eyed at the backstage area. They were students from Washington Heights High School. one of the first schools to benefit from the Harmony Initiative's funding. Their music program had been restored after years of budget cuts, and several of them would be performing tonight. Diane spotted Alex and made her way over. "Good crowd," she said by way of greeting. "Full house," Alex agreed. The fundraising goal was hit before the concert even began. "The board is pleased," Diane said. "The initiative's metrics have exceeded projections across all categories." That was as close as she ever came to saying good job. Alex had learned to translate Diane's speak over the months. "It's not just about the metrics," he replied. "Look at those kids." He nodded toward the students who were being shown the grand piano on stage by one of the technicians. Their faces glowed with excitement. Diane followed his gaze. "Yes, well, the human element has its value too." Coming from her, this was a significant concession. The stage manager reappeared. 2 minutes. Everyone not in the opening number, please clear the stage area." "That's my cue to find my seat," Diane said. She hesitated, then added, "Your grandfather would be proud, Alex." He looked at her in surprise. They had spoken about his grandfather only once, during a late working dinner when the barriers between CEO and advisor had temporarily lowered. Before he could respond, Diane continued, "After the incident last fall, I had 2 choices, resist change or embrace it. You forced me to choose the latter." The hint of a smile softened her features. "It's been educational." "For both of us," Alex said. A moment of understanding passed between them, neither fully comfortable with the genuine emotion but both acknowledging it. "Don't mess up out there," Diane said, reverting to her usual briskness. "The chairman of the National Arts Foundation is in the audience. We're hoping for a matching grant." "No pressure," Alex said dryly. "None at all," she agreed, straight-faced. Then she turned and walked toward the auditorium, her authoritative stride unchanged despite the evening attire. "Places, please," called the stage manager. Alex moved to the side of the stage where he could watch the opening performance, a string quartet of high school students playing an arrangement of a popular song. As the curtain rose and the students began to play, their initial nervousness transformed into focused concentration. The audience responded warmly, many recording on their phones. After several student performances interspersed with professional musicians who had volunteered their time, it was Alex's turn. He walked onto the stage, the bright lights momentarily blinding him. Applause greeted him, warmer and more enthusiastic than he had expected. Seated at the gleaming grand piano, a significant upgrade from the electronic keyboard in the boardroom 6 months ago, Alex adjusted the bench and looked out at the audience. In that moment, he felt the weight of his journey. From the frightened Juilliard student who had fled the stage in panic, to the unremarkable junior analyst hiding his talents, to the man he was becoming, someone who had found a way to reconcile the divided parts of himself. "Good evening," he said into the microphone. "Thank you all for supporting the Harmony Initiative tonight." The crowd quieted, attentive. 6 months ago, I was asked to play the piano after many years away from music. It didn't go quite as expected. Gentle laughter rippled through the audience. The video had become part of company lore. What could have ended badly instead became the start of something meaningful. He glanced toward where Diane sat in the front row, her expression unreadable in the dim light. The Harmony Initiative isn't just about funding music programs, though that's important. It's about recognizing that people are more than their job titles or degrees, that our diverse experiences and talents make us stronger, more creative, and more human. He placed his hands on the keys. "Tonight, I'd like to play something different than what you might have seen online. This piece tells a story of transformation, of finding beauty and purpose after difficulty." As he began to play Debussy's Clair de Lune, Alex felt a sense of rightness that had eluded him for years. The delicate opening notes hung in the air like droplets of light. Unlike the technical fireworks of Rachmaninoff that he had played at the gala, this piece whispered rather than shouted, inviting the listener into a world of subtle emotion and quiet beauty. The audience sat transfixed. In his peripheral vision, Alex could see several of the students from Washington Heights watching intently from the wings, perhaps seeing their own possible futures in his performance. As the final notes faded, there was a moment of complete silence, that magical pause where the music lingers in the air before dissolving. Then the audience erupted in applause. Alex stood and bowed, his heart full. Backstage after the performance, the energy was electric. Students chatted excitedly with professional musicians. Donors mingled with teachers. Raj was deep in conversation with the chairman of the Arts Foundation, gesturing animatedly. "Well done," said a quiet voice behind Alex. He turned to find Lisa Chen. "Thank you for coming all this way," he said. "I wouldn't have missed it." She smiled. "When I first saw you play at the gala, I knew something important was happening. I just didn't expect it to transform the company culture." "Has it really?" Alex asked. "More than you know," Lisa replied. "Diane has changed. She's still tough as nails, but there's a difference in how she leads, and others have noticed." She nodded toward a group of Meridian employees chatting with some of the student performers. "People are bringing more of themselves to work, sharing talents and interests that used to be kept separate from their professional identities." Thomas joined them, extending his hand to Alex. "The board is impressed. The initiative has improved our public image, employee satisfaction scores are up, and we've attracted new clients who appreciate our community engagement." "And the students?" Alex asked. "Their progress matters more than our metrics." Thomas smiled. "See for yourself." He gestured to where the Washington Heights students were showing their instruments to some of the board members, explaining their music program with pride and enthusiasm. The reception continued around them, a blend of corporate formality and artistic celebration that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Alex found himself moving between worlds, discussing funding strategies with donors in one moment and fingering techniques with student pianists the next. Near the end of the evening, he stepped outside for a moment of quiet. The night air was cool, the sky clear and scattered with stars. From the open doors behind him came the sounds of conversation and laughter, a harmony of different voices finding common ground. His phone buzzed with a text message. It was from an unknown number, but the content made his heart skip. "Your grandfather's friend here. He would have been so proud tonight. You found your way back to music on your own terms. That's all he ever wanted for you." Alex stared at the message, a lump forming in his throat. He had no idea how one of his grandfather's friends had found out about the concert, but the words touched something deep inside him. As he gazed up at the stars, Alex thought about the unlikely path that had brought him here. A mocking challenge from a CEO, a moment of courage born from desperation, a viral video, and most importantly, the decision to create a third option when the obvious choices felt wrong. "Alex?" Raj appeared in the doorway. "They're asking for you inside. The students want a group photo with you and Diane for the initiative's website." "Coming," Alex replied, tucking his phone away. Before heading back in, he took one more look at the night sky. "Thanks, Grandpa," he whispered. Then he turned and walked back into the light and music, back to the harmony he had helped create from Discord, back to the future he was still in the process of writing, note by unexpected note.